Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy. We are back once again with our weekly Book of Boba reviews, today talking about Chapter 3, The Streets of MOS ESPA. We've literally only just gone live, and before going live, we have had so many comments coming in. You guys are already chatting about the episode. Keep them coming in. We have been reading them. We will bring some of them up, and we might even be in agreement with you as well. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about with this one. We'll see how positive we are, because there are positives in the episode. There's a lot of questionable things too. So it's going to be, completely spoiler filled. You guys know the score by now. You've probably all watched the episode anyway. We're here to dissect it, talk about it, speculate of what's to come, and everything in between. But before we do, over to George with the socials.
Absolutely, guys. So please do comment your thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett. We know you're already doing it, so do keep doing it. As we said before, this is a spoiler-filled discussion. Everything is off limit unless you've somehow seen next week's already, which is impossible given the security. So do comment that, your theories as well, what you think is happening. Some people have put in who they think is behind it. There's really cool stuff in there, so do keep them coming, guys. Really appreciate it, and do hit that subscribe button. Every Wednesday night, we're here talking the Book of Boba Fett, and there's a lot more Star Wars on the way, alongside many other things. So do share it around as well. I know a couple of people have been sharing it with their friends. And as always, if you're new to the channel, obviously we're a film channel. We do a lot of TV stuff as well. Find us on social media. Best way to find out what we're doing, when we're doing it, times, all that kind of stuff. That's Twitter at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinema-savvy, and we have a link to TeePublic in that description below. But yeah, Chris has kind of gone in straight in there. This is a very interesting episode, and let's we're going to do it in chronological order. We've kind of said, haven't we? But ironically, one of the first things I guess we have to speak about is actually the gang we're probably going to end the episode about. So let's save the Vesper talk till the end. I don't know if we can say that.
If we have to, okay. That's the thing that needs to be said.
Just because we'll save them their moment for the incredibly fast, action-paced, epic chase that didn't involve like scaffolding getting smashed like 20 times in a row.
I do want to bring up this comment right here. It really did just make me laugh. Carl says the show should have been called The Paragraph of Boba Fett. Just feel we're 3 episodes in and not a lot has happened. Yeah, like every week we keep saying we're hoping the big thing's going to happen. I mean, the end of this episode does set up for some interesting things to come, hopefully. We live in hope for the next episode. First thing I want to talk about, I think it's the first shot of the episode, actually. The little spider droid thing that you see in Jabba's palace. Now, I watched the video. I didn't realize, well, it's no surprise in Star Wars with the amount of Wikipedia entries, that those things have a whole history. And apparently they're monks and they keep their brains in like the jars underneath and attach them to droids. It's very, very strange stuff. And that's all probably legends, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless. So we get that. And yeah, the water tank and the gang and everything. I think the first thing I want to talk about is just Boba Fett's characterization so far. Now, everyone wants to see their good old favorite Boba Fett gunslinging, shooting, doing all the cool stuff with all the gadgets and all the gizmos and everything. And we did get that in Mandalorian Season 2, which was also directed by Rodriguez, which is probably why he got the gig for this one. We know he's a big Boba Fett fan. And I realized that if he's going to be sort of being the protagonist of his own show, they need to add a little bit more character than that. You can't just have him, because he has been the supporting character for all this time. He's been the cool sidekick going out on missions, bounty hunting, whatnot. They need to add a shred more character there. I do feel like even with this episode as well, they've nerfed him down considerably. I've seen a few people saying that as well, that I don't know, he delegates to people and he doesn't seem like he's the same character. From Return of the Jedi, he gets knocked into the Sarlacc pit. We don't know how long he was in that pit for. Maybe he had a lot of time to think about his life, rethink his life or whatever. But when he came out of that pit, he's not he doesn't feel like the same character. He feels quite passive. He feels very much like a yes man so far. Yeah, I don't know what it is. And it was kind of exemplified by the water gang. Some guy comes up to him and says about, this gang stole water. I'm a water farmer. They've stole it. They owe me so much money. And he's like, right, I'm going to go and sort this out for you. Gets to the street, meets the gang, speaks to them. And they're like, yeah, we stole it, but he charges a lot of money for it. And he was just like, okay, yeah, I'm siding with you now, gang, who I've just met, who are really dodgy.
I was thinking of a different okay.
Yeah, he's like the guy. He's like the taxi driver from 9. I don't know. He just felt like he 180'd so quickly. Could you imagine police going out there like, these are suspected of murder, go there. oh no, we didn't do it, we promise. It's like, oh, okay, I suddenly believe you now, random person on the street. You know what I mean? It just it felt too quick for me. That
I see where they're coming from. I'm kind of in the opposite camp. I thought he was one of the most boring Star Wars characters ever put on whatever material people have put him out there for, comics, books, games, everything. I've just never been a Boba Fett fan. Whether that's because I'm more attached to Django is actually probably a really good debate, because I think a lot of people seem to be one or the other. I wonder if it's an age thing and whatnot, but I don't know. I think Mando really struck a chord with me seeing him in that, because it was like people thought he was going to come back and be this insane cool killer, and he was cool and he did kill things, but you could see even in that show that he'd sort of grown and whatnot off screen in this gap that we're obviously still getting filled in on across the series. And I think I'm really in on his character arc. I know we're not getting enough from him, which is one of my things. I think the way I'm kind of, as a gist of today, I feel like we've just hit the opening act of the whole series now. I think this is like the definitive end of Act 1 now. We know who the kind of overarching villains should be, could be. We know what's happened in the flashbacks. I feel like it's stepped up a gear, which it needed to. And obviously other stuff for next week onwards. But I don't know. The Water Gang thing's weird, because I don't have a problem with Bob. I have a problem with the actual, not just the gang as well. Even the water seller, like him, like standing around the corner, like no. It's so. I don't want to compare this to The Godfather, because a lot of people were. And I'm not comparing quality. I'm trying to think of dramas I've seen that is a crime orientated, that isn't about the crime itself. It's about controlling the crime, and it's probably been done so many times. But obviously, Godfather's the obvious ones. People keep saying it, and now it's stuck in mind as well. But what I'm finding more interesting is this overarching picture, which is, the Hutts versus the Mayor versus the Pikes versus the Boba Fett and all that kind of stuff, which we're getting a little bit more of now. And I feel like I'm in a better place. But I just think with Boba Fett that as the years have gone by, I don't think he's nerfed because we've not seen him in action yet. Like, I think next week, I'll keep saying, I think he's going to go full John Wick in the flashbacks. I think he's going to absolutely massacre everyone and everyone, which is, if it's done right, it's going to be glorious. Because obviously, as I said, we got that great stuff in Mando season 2 with him. Even before he got the armor back, he was using his stick and everything. And this year, I'm kind of at like the water tank stuff is boiling. But how many? Sorry, going back to what I was actually trying to make a point about, when you have whenever you watch a crime thing, there's always like a really boring moment, but they're in every crime film, right? And it's them. It's going to lead to something, and this is the whole water gang. It's an irrelevant thing. It's like someone's actually put a comment there. It's like a skippable intro to a game side quest. I see that exactly, and
yeah,
but they always exist in these things, and I don't know why. Even going back to episode 1, the whole like, oh, the Mayor, we are his greens. Okay, that's had a plot arc that's been there since the beginning now, but with the water thing, it's just that kind of really boring. It's like Game of Thrones, like when you get the Hand of the King. And actually just doing boring shit all day long. It reminds me a bit of that. And you would get like, oh, this person won't stop singing. And it's all that crap that kind of moves. So I'm in a different state of Bob. I think because I said know where it's heading. I know the gist of these kind of shows, where it's going to go. And that's why I'm not too fussed. And also, if he's going to have these action moments, which we know he will, you don't want to drop it too early in the show. And you don't want to do it every single week. You want to sort of pace it about right. That's my kind of perspective of it.
It's not so much like the Boba Fett action, although I know there's an appeal for that. I'm similar to you. Boba Fett's never really done it for me as a character. I just feel like he'd be more ruthless from the get-go. He just seems quite, as I said, passive. That's what I'm getting from him. He seems a lot more sociable with people. I never really thought that Boba Fett would be like that. I always thought he'd be like, get in, get it done. There's a moment, for example, towards the end of this episode, which we'll talk about, where he could very easily have stepped in and got the job done in about 2 seconds himself and, really stepped up to the plate. But it leads to probably one of the lowest points of this series so far. Obviously, we'll cover that at the end. I just wanted to bring this comment up right here. The Book of Spy Kids, that makes me laugh as well. We were talking about that actually before we went live. Very good comparison. And we've also had a comment here from Hornline Overtones that says, the Mayor's assistant and the moody cyber teens feel like they escaped from the Star Trek universe and somehow found their way into a galaxy far, far away. I can see that. Yeah,
I was thinking
absolutely.
Fallout, You know when you, I don't know if I messaged you. You know when you'd be playing Fallout and you just meet like a random, you're just going over the desert and there's this like group of like raiders, and then you just become one of them, and it reminds me that like, okay, you've got no business being here. You don't like fit in with the main character, but here you are. And Boba's like building this like mini army now, where it's like, okay, he's now got his 2 Gamorrean guards who are somehow lucky to be alive after this episode, I'm going to say. You've got Ming-Na Wen, who, talking about disappointment, she's done nothing so far in the show, and that's
I
not
know.
on her.
It's how I feel she was in Mandalorian. She's just there.
And in Mandalorian, it was like, okay, she's going to be in Book of Boba Fett. We're going to get more from her, and she still like sits on the sides and does the odd passing comments. I'm hoping maybe we'll get her in the flashbacks. What happened at the end of Mando season 1, I don't know, but that's one of my more concerns at the moment. Is I'd like to see more of their relationship, because it's interesting. There's nothing there with it, and I am very invested though, obviously with Tusken Raider stuff, which we'll get to as well. But yeah, sorry, I got caught by Dave here. It feels a little to me like Favreau has a serious plan in his head that maybe wasn't a Boba Fett story. I mean, I'd call that the Mandalorian, unless the Mandalorian is his Boba Fett story, and now he's doing a different one.
Well, I know the folks at Lucasfilm have wanted to get a Boba Fett thing off the ground for a while. You know, it was going to be a film, wasn't it, with Josh Trank? And then I don't know how many of the ideas they had for that film they took and put into this. Maybe it was a complete page 1 rewrite with everything that
George
happened
Lucas's
with Mando.
TV show as well. They've been using, like, Rogue One came from that, Solo came from that. So it's Boba Fett's an interesting one, because I think thanks to the prequels in a good way, because in canon, his character's been around decades, you can kind of put him wherever you want him to be. And especially keeping him alive post episode 6 means you can do stuff between 3 and 4, and you can do stuff between 6 and 7, which is what we're getting. And I think with Tamura being older, who I still think's perfect for her. I absolutely love him. Not that we don't action every scene, but I see him like wanting to be able to act a bit. Now, I know that sounds like a really dumb thing, that, you know, he doesn't need to wear his helmet 24/7 like the Mandalorian does, but I'm in this weird state of mind of it where the crime stuff's more appealing to me, because we're getting to at least see more of him as a character. He's quite reserved. He seems more noble, and I think because bounty hunters are these sort of like cold-blooded killers, and obviously in this even towards being like an ex-bounty hunter giving advice and stuff, I'm really curious to see how he still got to that point, because I still think it's something we're going to find out in the next 3 weeks. That's why I'm kind of holding judgment. I think this show, more than Mando and the others, it needs to get to the end for the 2 storylines to come full circle. And that's where I kind of am at the moment with it. Like, I would be absolutely gutted if this show ends and like it ends the flashback half of he took his revenge on the Raiders, and we've still not got to Bib Fortuna. Come back in season 2 for season 2 flashbacks. And I think it was Arrow we mentioned. It's like when we mentioned Arrow a few weeks ago, like in Arrow season 1, it was tied up beautifully. There was magically season 2, and there was like a second flashback story that no one needed. I'm just hoping with this, if they can nail the flashback into present, I think we'll have a full character. But I'm just 3 episodes in out of 7. It's very hard, I think, to judge it where it's going to head.
I think episode 4 is going to be make or break for this series, in all honesty. I think a lot of people are sort of hard done by this episode. They're getting frustrated at the pacing. And I remember being in a similar boat with kind of both series of Mando, really, to a point. You know, that is a lot more episodic than this one, I would say. You know, just sort of disparate adventures that Mando and Grogu go on. And once you into season 2 and you know that that's kind of the formula of the show, it is a bit frustrating sometimes. I think season 2 did a better job with that, in having episodes linking on to one another, less filler episodes, and getting to the point a lot more. This one's sticking to the point, but the point's just a little bit vague at the moment, and it's not really massively interesting or exciting or exhilarating just yet. And I'm hoping that's what episode 4 is going to be. And once we've got a clear idea of what's happening in 4 and the lay of the land, then that's going to take us through to our final 3 episodes. I really hope that's the case, because I do think, sort of, out of the 3 episodes we've been presented so far, this is probably my least favorite episode of the 3. That being said, there are elements of the present day stuff that I do really enjoy. I think, the costumes, the look of certain things, it is setting the plate for something interesting to come, but we keep saying that every week. And I feel like we need some kind of a payoff. We need some kind of like mid-season payoff. And I guess episode 4 is going to serve as that midway point, isn't it? You mentioned just a minute ago, though, God bless the prequels, and would be remiss if we didn't talk about a returning character from the prequels, Attack of the Clones, to be specific. The taxi driver character, I don't know what the droid's called. He transports Padme and Anakin in Attack of the Clones before the Watto meeting. He goes like "Arky Arky" or something like that. It was great seeing him back, and I love how, in terms of visuals, certainly, there's the fact that there's actual sets and things like that. It looks very much like original trilogy stuff, and I always love when they blur the lines and you get things like the Tusken Raider dogs come back into it, or a pit droid, for example, which we've had in Mando.
Yeah.
We see one in this. I like how you get those few returning elements from the prequels kind of transition in with the original stuff, but I don't know. I don't know if it was the same taxi driver. I like to think it was, but I know it's a big universe, so maybe there's a whole bunch of these droids knocking around the city, but I don't know. It was cool to see. I liked it. I got a bit of a kick out of that, I must admit.
I spotted, I watched the second time like my dad, I spotted I forgot her name from Mandalorian. The curly hair, the 3 pit droids.
The SNL kind of character, right?
When they're putting the stormtroopers' heads on the spikes, which is another cool, it's cool when you see these worlds collide. That's obviously set straight after 6, but that's a Mandalorian imagery thing. But it's cool seeing her walking in the background with her pit droids. That's the thing. It's about them, and I know that I think Favreau spoke about this in the past, that when he came on board, like, he was like fully anti-prequels, everything, and he kind of said like Filoni's the one that like helped him encourage like take on those kind of things. And even if it's as minor as putting a Tusken Raider's dog in it, not that you need to authenticate the prequels, but it kind of makes sense that they're in the prequel. So why wouldn't you not use them in this? And there's imagery like that which I think do make sense to be there and should be there. And like I said, the taxi driver, that's just a cool reference. Like, so few people are going to get that, but the ones that do are going to absolutely love it. But let's talk quickly about the water shit's just nonsense. So we'll just go. Let's go to the flashback, because I think it's going to be a talking point. Now, I
wasn't much in this episode, was there? Comparatively to what we've had before, certainly. But
I obviously said last week they're going to die, and it'll be this big moment, and they're all dead. But not quicker than I thought.
Off screen as well, we didn't even see it. I did want to bring up this comment earlier. Dave mentioned it, saying I was really underwhelmed with the slaughter of the Sand People. Needed to have way more weight to it. We needed to see the kid dead. I
want to see what they look like. I mean, I don't. But have you ever had this gaping question about Tusken Raiders that I've always wanted to know, like, what is like that can't be their actual like born heads.
Yeah,
but I know, like, it reminds me of like every terrible prequel that no one ever asked for. It's like, no, I don't need to see the origin of the Tusken Raiders' face, but if it's done properly, I might. But the answer is still no.
I did the same with Jawas as well, and you can Google image that. There is an old Star Wars comic which shows you what's behind the hood, and let's just say you'll be thankful that the hoods stay up with the Jawas. They're terrifying, absolutely terrifying. If you want some nightmare fuel, go check that out on Google Images. But yeah, I mean, that's 2 Tusken Raider massacres we've had in the Star Wars saga now that have happened off screen. In very many ways, and I think
Darth Vader comics. I don't normally have a quote comics, but that was just an amazing one where like he just got bored and just massacred a village because he was there.
He's just holding on to that grudge. He'll never let it go, will he, till his dying day. I feel it kind of did a disservice to the moment, though, because I actually think the strongest thing so far for me in this series has been him becoming ingratiated into this camp of the Tusken Raiders, seeing more of their culture and everything like that. And I really enjoyed that stuff, the different personalities, the different hierarchy and within this clan of these Tusken Raiders. And you did kind of establish characters within them. You know, you had the kid one, you had the warrior female one, you had the chief of the group and everything like that. Never uttered a single word of like human basic dialogue in there, but you got a sense of their character, and I thought that was cool. To kill the whole, well, what we assume is the whole camp off screen, I think that does lessen the moment. Not even like any quick flashes of it happening or anything like that. You just see, the burning, smoked village at the end. And it lacked impact. It lacked emotion with me. And I think it was very quickly done, especially going from last episode where they were all taking on the gun train that was going through the desert and all seemed well. And then it's just like within the next episode, it just happens off screen. I thought, I don't know, it lacked impact with me. And I think they could have really milked that moment a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I'm half there, half not on this. So I said we knew they'd die. And again, I'm waiting to see what happens next week. Like, if their death was for nothing, then that's just a massive waste of 2 really good episodes of building up these people, this clan, as you said.
Spent a lot of time with them so far.
Yeah, and I get the whole, it is setting the Pikes up to be the villain. Had that conversation, we can't pay both of you to basically give us passage throughout the land. only one of you, and Bob was like, you know, well, I'll make sure there's none left. And the moment he says it, you can probably just assume they're all going to be dead. Like, I don't think we need to not see a massacre. Like, if he was there in the village, that's fine. But then I think that would also look a bit shit. Like, if I'm being blunt, like he just happened to survive, but no one else did. If he was alive, I think would be very odd, given that he obviously attacked them all in that bar as well. So I'm in this weird state with this where it just depends what happens next week. I think there's more to it. And now we know that the Pikes are probably the sort of not main villains, but they rock up at the end is the big deal. I think they're behind this death. I think the speeder bike gang is obviously as well, but I think they're going to get massacred next week, and some John Wick, Boba Fett unleashed. So we've not had him losing his rag yet, if that makes sense. It's building up, and you've had this emotional core. You built these characters for 2 weeks. They've been killed off screen. Obviously, you as the viewer, you're following his journey with it. By the way, really cool tracking shot. Like, it starts its face, and then like zooms out and goes up. I don't know if it's like it was a drone shot or if it was something else they did, but I'm with you. It lacked impact. The fire scene was great. The when he got the little stick out for the kid. But at the same time, it's really not the ET dead kids, but because he looks like a Tusken Raider, you can do it. But
not even the younglings survived.
Yeah, like the way I kind of felt with it as a first viewing before tonight, watching it this morning, I was like, who sticks that? Like, okay, it's a small stick. You assume it's the kids, right? But okay, and then you watch it later. Okay, the kid was playing with it in the last scene. So I'm like, oh man, like killing the Banthas was sad. Like, I like Banthas, they just seem to get killed every week on the show. But I'm in this not weird state, but again, I'm like, just wait and see what happens next, because if he justifies it, even if you get like acting out of him when he sees them gets his vengeance, I'll take that. But at the moment, it's a bit flat. But I understand why they didn't want to show it, because we're with him. It would be weird if we knew as the audience they're already dead before he got there, given it's his dreams and his flashback.
Yeah, and we've seen moments where Boba Fett snaps as well in Mando too. I think was it like the meme image where he's bringing the stick down to like cave a stormtrooper's head in. Like, we know that the animal's still there within him. And yeah, hopefully it is like a John Wick moment. He's buried this thing, he's buried this hurt and pain for all these years, and then he's finally going to get an outlet to dish out some justice in the next episode. I really hope so, because I'm kind of done. I want to see Boba Fett do something now. I think the time is now for it. Some really nice shots in the flashbacks. As I said, considering the ratio of flashback compared to present day stuff we've had in the previous 2 episodes, this one definitely tended towards more of the present day stuff. And I joked with you beforehand earlier today, having watched it, saying that the last 2 weeks I've been kind of complaining that the flashbacks have been overshadowing the present day stuff, and I want more present day stuff. And then with the new stuff that they gave us in this episode, I'm like, oh, I kind of wish they'd have spent more time in the flashback stuff now. But I guess that's where the focus of the episode has been, ratio-wise, as I mentioned, emotional-wise, storytelling-wise. That maybe I just didn't care as much this time for the present day stuff. But there is a positive, kind of. Shall we move on to the Wookiee fight? So we've got Chrysanthemum. It sounds like the name of a flower a little bit, doesn't it, really? But I mean, I first got a glimpse of this character last week. I don't read the comic books. I don't read novels. I know nothing about this character. Did a quick Google image, I think, after from last week, and I saw a couple of panels where the character's there. Brilliantly realized from the page of the comic, I will say. The costume looks fantastic. It probably looks like one of the best costumes I've seen. One of the coolest looking Star Wars characters. It's a Wookiee, but not as you know it. He's an evil Wookiee. He's a gladiator Wookiee. He's a bounty hunter. I think Darth Vader's recruited him a whole bunch of times. I think I've read in the comics or something like that. Really cool character. I compared him, watching him sort of in action in this one. I mentioned to you, he looks like Lurtz from the Fellowship, the big, ugly Urukai thing from the first Lord of the Rings film. It's the dreadlocks, I think, in the face. Costume's fantastic. I do think, however, though, I really hope he comes back. I hope he's not done with this, because he's in it and then he's out of it, and he kind of gets sent back as, a bargaining chip almost. From what I've heard in the comics, he's massively overpowered. He's like this unstoppable wrecking force. He's a Wookiee as well. I mean, Wookiees are strong. They can rip your arms off if they want to. I feel like the fight was very weak and wasn't choreographed very well. He kind of just slaps people around, but I think he's got these knuckle dusters as well, hasn't he? Like, he would knock people out.
And electric.
Yeah, he would crack. Like, I think he bear hugs Boba at one point.
Yeah, this creeped me out. It never happens, his toenail. So when he was doing the beg to Boba Fett, for some reason, like, his toenail was like a bloody oval moon. Like, it was like curling and ripping up. And I got really like concerned. Like, is that CGI toenails or is like he somehow like got like toe acting that I've never seen before? But like, if anyone sees the fight again, just keep an eye out. Just watch him in the bear hook. It's really creepy.
I didn't see that. I don't know. I feel like he could have been a bit more brutal. Like he was just kind of like he couldn't even beat the new kid gang, you know, this unstoppable bounty hunter Wookiee that Vader has sent out personally onto missions, from what I assume. As I said, I haven't read the comic books. And he just gets overpowered so quickly. And it kind of reminded me of some of the later Terminator films, in that Terminators are kitted out with like all schematics on human anatomy. Like I think in Salvation, there's a moment they can like 1-inch punch you into the chest, into your heart, and just kill you outright with one punch if they want to. They could crush your skull. They could break every bone in your body. But from like Terminator 3 onwards, all they do is throw people. They just throw people away and then have to walk towards them. Then they'll pick them up and then throw them again. And I feel like that was this fight all the way through. He's just kind of smacking people across the room and they just get back up for more. And I felt like it took the impact away from the character and a bit of the tension there.
I see where I think this was a weird one. I think they can't kill the Wookiee because it's a bounty hunter. It's a comic thing. I don't know its fate. Maybe it died in the comics. I don't know. I've not read them. But how I felt they handled it was, okay, we can't actually... It felt like wrestling. Like, when they used to script wrestling, it's like, okay, like... Yeah. No, it's like... When it's wrestling, okay, so here's, you know, I don't know, Super John Cena, as we all know him. We can't allow him to lose. So we'll have some, like, not, like, no contest. Oh, he falls through the trapdoor. And I don't mind that because it kind of not preserves his integrity. But the only thing that annoyed me was I thought the Gamorreans were going to die. And I don't know if you got a bit of PTSD here. They started playing the sound effects of when the Gamorrean guards getting eaten by the Rancor.
Yeah,
and I actually got a bit. That's always been a sound effect that's always just creeped me out as a kid. But hearing that, like,
as well.
No, that's what they did though. Like, they came out as like, "Oh, these are absolute toast," and like he bites one of them's neck.
I thought we were going to get an arm rip. I thought they were going to build up to that because I know that that was a
Yeah.
deleted scene from Force Awakens, wasn't it? They shot a scene with Chewie
ripping
ripping off Unclar. Yeah, in Takadana. But I was hoping for that. I was like, if we're going to finally see it in action, let's see it with like this big bad Wookiee. But then immediately as I thought that, he went in for the neck bite, and I thought he was going to straight up like rip his throat out or something and kill one of the guards. I think they're both fine. He's just like, oh, take him to my back tank.
One of them gets
this
like
magical tank that can cure anything.
Point blank punched with knuckle dusters that have spikes and electricity, and he gets yeeted in the face. And to be fair, I do like the moment from Boba, you know, put him in back tank. I do like that kind of thing because he's obviously playing like the nobleman now, isn't he? He's almost like a Rob Stark, not Rob Stark, Sean Bean, Ned Stark of this series now. Like, here's the noble man that's come in to do right and is going to probably lead to getting done wrong.
Which was the bit where Boba walked in with a dressing gown on? Was it
that bit? It was that bit. It was just after they put him in the trapdoor. He comes out in a dressing gown, which I loved. What I loved with the Bacta thing, I think, because every episode has had it, the dream ends and the water gets sucked down and then it opens. Because he'd ripped it open, it was a really cool. I know it's a really minor detail, but the fact that it was still flooding and then the Wookiee just absolutely has him. I like the things like that because not that it's poetic, it rhymes and that crap. I just think you can't have him in peril in episode 3. And again, I don't want to upset the comic book people. Comics aren't like someone's going to cry somewhere. Again, I don't know say, but if there's a pan for him, fine. But if you kill him off, I don't give a shit. 90% of people at home have not read any of these comics at all. And I think that's them being applied like, okay, we'll have him lose, but we'll have him lose in a way that if we want to bring him back, he can. But he just literally jogs off screen in Tatooine, and that's him done. And I thought, is he going to join his new band of mercenaries? Nope. So I don't really know the fight. I like the fight, but yeah, like seeing that gang come in, like it was cool when like Boba like stabbed him in the back with his stick, and that stayed on him for like the rest of the fight. That was a cool little moment, but. You know, the gang are coming in to get yeeted. And let's be honest, they're all going to die except the girl, right? I think, is everyone already betted on that yet? Because...
Well, I hope so. I don't know, we had a comment earlier saying that as each episode goes by, You know, Boba's
He's
kind
getting
of
more
recruiting
people.
more people. The room's becoming more full, and he's just got a gang of what, 4 or 5 added to his palace now.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll kill them off straight away? I really hope they're not here to stay, because if
Who
they are, I'm
who's
done.
gonna win who will win a race? The people carrying the Hut twins or the speeder bikes at full speed? Yeah, it's again. I'm in this. I'm holding fire until I've seen more, because I think this is the only show that's going to be. I say this, they'll announce season 2 tomorrow. I feel this is the only show that's going to be contained. That this could be seen as a, you know how we had WandaVision and Hawkeye, and it's like it's a mini series. I'm really hoping Book of Boba's that.
I agree. It ain't going to be.
I think if there is a season 2, they'd have announced it by now, because filming wise, they are fully booked up on TV for the next like 2-3 years, and this is something they want to revisit way down the line. But that's why I'm pretty chill, because there are things I like, there are things I don't like, but I can't like come out, because if they massacre them all next week, would be great. If there's some big power,
I'll be back on board.
Yeah, and I'm just holding fire, because I know that there's a picture, and I'm still not concerned by 7 episodes, but it's that whole, why 7 episodes? You know, it's always a 6, 8, or 10 when you're a miniseries, and 7 such an odd number. And I'm just kind of sat there. You know, again, like I think there's a reason there's 7 episodes. So, you know, it was shorter today. I'm going to say it was what 32 minutes or something.
Yeah, it wasn't long. Which I don't know if that's like an omen of dread now. If you check the runtime, if it's anything below sort of 35 minutes,
No,
you're not into a great episode.
I think they're just, what I'll say about each episode structure, no episode has shown too much. If that makes sense. Like, you've not started the next episode storyline the episode before, and it's been quite clean cut. And again, with the flashbacks, you know, some people dying in this one made sense, given that last week it ended with him getting crowned with it all, because it just sets up their fate. There's obviously getting the payoff to that. Is that going to come next week or not? That's where I kind of stand with like, talking the Huts, which is probably a good segue.
I was just going to bring this up really quickly, just so we can stay on top of some of the comments. Carl says, "Sorry, I'm down on the show. Each week, I really want to enjoy it and hope it gets better. Don't apologize for being down on the show. Speak your opinion. If every episode sucks of this series, speak it. You know, don't just feel like you have to be positive about it. You know." I think a lot of people are in the same boat with this one, in all honesty, from reading the comments so far. R's comment, hopefully the Scooby-Doo gang don't make it to episode 4. We live in hope. Don't worry, we're going to get to the gang. We're going to save them till the end, and the hate is going to flow through us. There's a few other things that we need to talk about now. And we'll talk, don't worry, Dave, we'll talk about the Rancor as well. We're getting onto that now. We're getting onto it. So, yeah, sorry, George, if we want to move on to the Huts now.
Let's talk the Huts. Now, without talking about their scene, while we were going to, they're coming back. I don't think they've been written out of the show. I'm 100% convinced that they're involved heavily with something that we don't know about yet. So I'm curious. This is the thing that's getting me going now. Like when the Huts came up last week, that's a very ballsy thing for Lucasfilm to drop in, and I don't think they'd do it unless they had serious meaning to. Obviously, I know George Lucas isn't running it anymore, but you know how in episodes 4 and 5, Jabba that was spoken about, he was never seen, he was spoken about, and he had a presence by never being shown. That's maybe not including episode 1, but that's how I've always felt about the Huts, that they're this, not this gang, but they say in this that Jabba, you know, without Jabba, there's no power. Bib Fortuna was paying off the mayor. He was having other people do it because no one basically respected him. And I'm kind of sat here thinking that there's something going on with the Huts. Are they working with the Pikes? Or are they against the Pikes? Or the Huts of the mayor? There's loads of variables, which is where my sort of main, not hope is for the show, but my mindset with it. Because that scene, you wouldn't expect them to do an assassination attempt and the next scene be like a polite ending, you know, backhand on the Wookiee, you know, his bit's done. I didn't expect that. And obviously, actually, before we talk about the Rancor, I kind of want to know your thoughts on the Hut stuff as well.
Yeah, well, I think I've settled on, because last week we were unsure whether it was practical effects, kind of, or was it merged? You know, did they integrate CGI onto it as well? I think it's fair to say after watching this episode, it's all CGI. At least it looked all CGI this time. I like the characters. I like seeing more of the Hut clan to a point. not including Zero and not including speaking of Stinky,
Stinky the Hut.
Dave's comment right there. Jabba's son Stinky is inside it. Maybe, who knows? I'm going to eat those words that I want to see more of the Hut clan, but they're an interesting, uncomfortable couple of characters. I've seen a few other people mention that they're very close for twins, but incest, the theme of incest does run deep in the Star Wars saga so far, so it's in keeping with the themes, I suppose, of the show. I do want to see them back though, because I think that it's a huge missed opportunity. They introduced them last week in the middle of the town. I do think it was really weird that they've got to have a plan though, because they showed up last week and they were like, we want the palace, basically. We want to be top dog. We want to rule this place. And Boba Fett was like, no. And they were like, okay, sorry, see you later, bye. Like, why would you go there and not have a plan and go, right, well, if you won't, then we're going to take it by force and bring out your army or a rancor or whatever you've got at your disposal. It was very weird. So clearly they had a plan, or at least I hope they would. And then in this episode, they just kind of show up right at the door with a rancor as a peace offering. And they're like, we're getting out of here. We're going back to, was it Malhutter, wherever the planet's called or whatever. And I'm like, oh, well, have they just been written out? I hope that's not the case, because I want to see the Hutts come into play more. Maybe they're playing the long game. Maybe they're going to wait for all of these rival gangs to kind of tear themselves apart and then swoop in at the last minute and take it. We've had a comment there about the Rancor, though, being a Trojan horse. I don't think it is. I think it's going to be straight up. I think we're going to have some like How to Train Your Dragon bonding scenes with Boba and the Rancor over the course of the next couple of episodes. I didn't realize they could be ridden, though. Apparently, this is a thing in the video games. I don't know if it's been in the shows as well before this point. I don't know how you can ride a Rancor because they're really slow moving. Like, you see that one come out the gate in Return of the Jedi, and it's this kind of lumbering, slow thing. I don't think you could ride that effectively into battle, but maybe this will show us a different story if we ever do get to that point in the final episode. I did like the holiday special reference, though. See, references like that I'm fine with. I think Boba mentions, I've ridden beasts 10 times the size of this Rancor, which is a reference to I think it's called the Mythosaur, I think, the animated segment. Yeah. The only kind of okay part from the holiday special that everyone talks about. That's a cool reference. I like that. Danny Trejo was weird. Like, it's,
yeah.
I know why he's there, but I question why he's there, if you know what I mean. It took me right out of it. There was a lot of real world stuff in this episode. We'll cover the obvious thing with the gang in a second, but when you see celebrity cameos like that, almost, it's not quite like the SNL stuff, but it's like, oh, it's Danny Trejo playing Danny Trejo in Star Wars. It's weird.
That's when I saw him approaching, I was like, oh my god, like, they didn't even need to dress him up or like hide him as someone else, did they? Like, they just went all in, And given that we all know Malik Ali as the main Rancor keeper, he's been with us for almost 40 years now, as the sole Rancor keeper. To then get another one that's like juiced up,
maybe he's still on like bereavement or something, like 5-year bereavement. And
this is where I am with it. I don't mind Dan Trey, but all this because as I mentioned, I was like, I think it is going to be he's going to ride it, blah blah blah. That's what again. I was like, is this a villain's plan? And I'm like, or is it because is it villain's plan? I think in my head because Danny Trejo's delivered it, and Danny Trejo just doesn't really play non-villains anymore. So that's why
he did in Spy Kids. He did in Spy. Wouldn't it be like
but then that became
just
Machete, didn't it?
The same character, because he was Machete in Spy Kids, wasn't he? Wouldn't it just be like Rodriguez to make this guy Machete as well? Wasn't Machete in Space meant to be the next film? Well, there you go. Probably. It's Machete in Space.
I'm very curious, like, because with the Rancor thing, like learning to ride the Rancor, that's a hell of a feature across 4 episodes. Now, maybe they'll do it fine. I'm not fussed about that, but I'm not going to lie. I did get very attached to it very quickly. Like, but the moment I saw the Rancor getting delivered in, I was like, fuck's sake, okay. Now he's going to get a pet Rancor. I was like, and I did think straight, I was like, it doesn't strike me that this Boba Fett we've seen, this moral pointed Boba Fett, would want to feed people to a Rancor. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt with it so far. And straight away when he's like, we'll feed it, and he's talking about animal carcasses, like, oh, okay. And I love the fact he's just giddy around it. And when he got that great line saying, why is he lying down doing nothing? He's like, well, he's depressed. And I was just there like, yeah, like everyone seems to love that line. And is it because it's Danny Trejo again? I don't know, but there's something about, like, I think that with the Rancor, I don't need to talk about the humanization of Tusken Raiders. Like, I'm not getting to that, but I'm not going to sit here and say that the Rancors are going to become, these pet these household pets in Star Wars now. But I'm really curious because it just wasn't on my bingo card to get a Rancor in this show.
I'm not surprised. Nothing
get...
surprises me now. They keep bringing shit back.
I mean,
it's a matter of time before a Rancor showed up.
But like, it has, the Rancor's head's been on the throne thing, hasn't it? Like that was part of his first decoration, and this is where I'm at with like, is it going to be a villain type thing? I think Danny Trejo says, it's blinded. Well, it's got its covers because they form attachments to the first ever thing they see. And I like that whole like sort of dog training thing. Like when we had dogs, our dogs like their favorites, the first ones they met in our house and stuff, and that's quite common. But at the same time, it's like, or is he focusing on it because it's going to be his main food for the series? I don't know. So I personally loved it, and I'm glad it just didn't eat someone straight away. I'm glad they didn't. I thought, oh, are they going to feed the Wookiee to it or something stupid? But they didn't, and I'm curious because the live action image of my head of Boba Fett on a Rancor charging into battle will look
slowly charging into battle on a Rancor.
Well, I think it'll be fine, but it will look incredible. Like if they can get that right, that will be something that's like you got like defining images for shows. If they can build up to it and deliver, I'm game. But at the same time, the Rancor needs to be charging into battle against more than 12 plates who don't really do anything. So
it's going to be like in the Batman Arkham games where you climb on top of the Titan things and you just it's like flailing.
Yeah,
and like
you flail
things.
But what I'll say though is the looked animatronic Rancor looked bloody incredible when it's in the cave.
Now, up close, it was practical. I think outside it was CGI, and I was like,
CGI
we're not CGI in the Rancor, are we? But yeah, inside I was like, okay, at least they've built one for the inside. That's fair enough.
I get you still can't do a puppet like the old days, as in, it was, well, not small, but when it was shown as a full thing, it was quite a small puppet, I think, wasn't it? It was like a miniature, whereas now it just looked phenomenal. And I really hope, one thing we've said, I think we said it again, episode 1, didn't we, with the Dusk and Red Dogs, the whole Disney stuff. I've given this, was it 7 years since Force Awakens now? Fucking hell, that's long. They've not got it wrong, I think, of any CG/practical. The blend across every show, you see that money on screen. And I think doing the Rancor justice like that is perfect. And you see things like Jurassic World, which is completely relevant to this. I'm just sat there like, yeah, fuck you, Jurassic World. Like, use the Bronchosaurus once and then made out like you using puppets throughout when you never were.
Yeah. And the results speak for themselves and they hold up. Stuff from way back when holds up better than most of the stuff that comes out now. You got to get that blend right. And yeah, if it had been a CGI Rancor the whole time, I'd have been like, I'm done. I'm so done. Because with the Hutts, I think I wish they would have built 2 puppets for it. I'm pretty sure that they didn't merge like a puppet with CGI. It does look full on CGI now. Maybe it looked more
because they're outside.
Yeah, and it would.
I know it sounds really dumb, but how the Rancor inside you could tell was a puppet versus outside was CG. I wonder if it's a bit like that, maybe.
Yeah, I know. Last time it was a set, wasn't it? Whereas this time it looked purely digital outside the gates of Jabba's palace. But yeah, I wonder if we're going to get like a Mando season 1 riding montage. When he was trying, I forgot what they're called, the little bipedal. That's it. Like, and he kept falling off and getting back on again and falling off, and the music sounded like Creed at the time, and we couldn't put our finger on it, and then we did. I wonder if we're going to get that. He climbs upon the Rancor. That's a long way to fall, though. Rancors are a lot bigger than the Blurg things, but yeah. And you know what? I guarantee it's Disney. They're going to tug at the heartstrings with this thing, and it's going to make you go back to Return of the Jedi. And when that Rancor keeper's crying, which is already really sad, and it's so much character to that guy that doesn't have a speaking line, when you see the attachment that a Rancor built, and that was like him and the Rancor keeper, it's going to absolutely break you when you go back to Return of the Jedi.
Well,
guarantee.
In Bad Batch last year, there was an episode where they were picking up some cargo, and it was a baby Rancor. And the episode ends with Bib Fortuna with Gamorrean guards taking the Rancor away. And they almost released a statement saying, no, this is not that Rancor from Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Because it was like a really cute, not baby one, but like a smaller one. And they're like, no, it's not that one. Don't worry. Because people would have been traumatized. But yeah, it's kind of it's like the whole dog argument, isn't it? Like, it's not bad dogs, it's shit owners. I'm not going to justify the Rancor existence, but I'm glad we just haven't had a second Rancor that's a carbon copy of the first one. That it didn't wake up and try and eat him. It didn't do that yet. So, yeah, I'm curious. And I think the one thing with Star Wars is that whenever something new comes out, it's going to change your perception on the films. no matter if it's one
Or
episode of
better
Boba
or
Fett or
worse.
yeah, and I think even if you watch Attack of the Clones now, you'll be like, oh, Tusken Raiders, we had them in the Mandalorian and all that, and so, as I said, yeah, it's both good and bad, and the Rancor one could be funny.
Well, with Disney's obsession with
cleaner.
creating like cute baby versions of things, Baby Groot, Baby Yoda, I'm very surprised that they didn't hand him like a little pup of like a Rancor, and it'll be like, don't
That was
worry,
because that was in
he'll
Bad
get bigger.
Batch. That one
Oh,
was in
was
Bad
it?
Batch. That's why it
Oh,
was
okay.
small. It was a lot smaller, but it was still kind of big.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I was gonna say when the Rancor showed up on that thing, at first I thought it was like the carcass or something of the one from Return of the Jedi. I'm like, surely that would be bones by now. And then it rocked up, and I did kind of go, "Oh, we're doing the Rancor again, for God's sake!" Like, give me a new creature. Does it have to be a Rancor in that pit? It's just a monster pit. Could we have any monster in there? Show me something new. Does it have to be a Rancor again? But I don't know. If they're going to do something with it, fair enough. But I did kind of think like it's the familiar, it's another Rancor. But I don't know. It looks like they're going to give more personality to this one. It is going to be distinctly different. And maybe they are sort of like common brand in the monster pit, monster fighting business. Maybe Rancors are the go-to. I know that said a lot of them are bred specifically for that purpose. They did mention about the Sisters of Dathomir, though. Now, I have seen that arc in Clone Wars, so I know who they are. I can't remember if you see them riding Rancors in the Clone Wars episodes, if it's a bit of a weird detail to throw in. I was trying to picture that in my head with, the three in the red dresses just rocking up on a Rancor. And I seem to remember them being in the first Force Unleashed game. And I can't remember if that it's in my mind is remembering them being fast moving in that because they were quite terrifying in that game. Do you remember the hack and slash game with a Star Killer and everything, the Force Unleashed? I think there's a bit where you go to a planet and you have to fight a lot of Rancors. I seem to remember.
I feel like there were Rancors in it, and I always get the mix of Ackley because I know that was in Battlefront 2, the original one.
Yeah, that's Felucia, wasn't it, in Battlefront 2, the Ackley?
Yeah, and then in Fallen Order you have the Dathomir. You're on
there's one in that as well, isn't there?
Surviving. So yeah, they're making their way around. I still don't think they're a household name for non-Star Wars fans yet. I don't think a lot of people get them, but yeah, I can't see the image of the bowls, white skeleton-like person riding a Rancor into battle. I don't think it would help them much against Count Dooku in truth either.
No,
General Grievous. I can't remember who killed them all. But yeah, it's a weird one. Weird references like that. Like, I'm not going to moan about a reference to something else, but it was weird getting like a Night Sisters reference, and
especially
some references are really cool.
We haven't seen them ride them. Like if they'd have made them ride them in Clone Wars back in the day, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, cool reference. But
it just feels like, what could we reference at this moment in
pick
time?
A name out of a hat. Sisters of Dathomir. Yeah. Okay. Right. Shall we get on to the inevitable? We've delayed it long enough, ladies and gentlemen. Get your comments in. A lot of you already have, even before we went live. We're talking about the speeder chase, the gang, the fucking Vespa bikes, everything. We're going to cover it now, folks. Okay. They set these guys up before you see them. And I honestly thought this sounded like one of the most original, coolest concepts in Star Wars history for a long time. They said, there's these guys that augment themselves with droid parts to enhance themselves. And I was like, oh, man. Go on.
Can I jump in? Sorry.
Yeah,
I thought we were going to get Dengar because in Rise of Skywalker, like, Dengar's alive because he's basically a cyber droid now.
Right.
And I was like, is this going to be like a weird Dengar cameo that no one knew about? Is Simon Pegg going to replay the role from Clone Wars? Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say it.
No. See, you went for his character. I didn't know anything about Dengar at that point. I went for like Saw Gerrera, how he's got like all metal parts and he's more machine now than man kind of thing. But my mum was going crazy when they said that. I was thinking, right, droid parts. Because I'm a prequels guy, because I grew up with them, I went back to the prequel era, which wouldn't be a thing because I think they were all disbanded, weren't they? I was expecting someone with like their arm cut off with a super battle droid arm or something. Just go nuts, go crazy, have all these weird cyborg people. And I thought that would be really, really cool. We haven't seen anything like that in Star Wars, not really, and the possibilities are kind of endless. What I wasn't expecting was what we got. And what we got were like these kind of chavvy London gangsters hanging around, these alternate steampunk looking people with, I've seen them called the Power Ranger crew, like these multicolored Vespa bikes. Took me right out of it. It absolutely ruined the immersion. And we've said this sometimes with like the SNL characters that come on. it feels like too much real world stuff is intruding in Star Wars, and it shatters the suspension of disbelief that you're watching. Yeah, it helps maintain the illusion of this fictional fantasy world, and anything that takes you out and snaps you back to reality immediately takes you out of it. In the Timothy Zahn books, often regarded as fantastic. The Thrawn trilogy, episodes 7, 8, and 9 set the groundwork for a lot of stuff that we're even seeing now, going back to Thrawn, getting him to rewrite another Thrawn book. There's a drink in that, and it's like, oh, Luke poured himself a glass of hot chocolate. And it's like, oh, well, that's just taking me right out of it. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that. But why did multicolored Vespa bikes, and they don't even dress them up really. Yes, they hover. Yes, they're like a speeder bike, I suppose. But inherently, it's a fucking Vespa bike. They didn't do anything to disguise them or to Star Wars them up or anything. How that made it off the cutting room floor, well, just an ideas, in a meeting, in a script, in a concept art, in the credits, all the beautiful, fantastic concept art, wonderful artists. It's like, what's wrong with this picture? And it's the one with the bikes. It's like, well, why are they in Star Wars? Why have you got Vespa bikes there? Why have you got mod bikes? It ruined everything. And I was actually kind of enjoying the episode to that point. And, they introduced them, and it was like the thorn in my side. And I was like, oh, I'm going to stagger on because I'm enjoying a lot of other stuff. But then it's like the cherry on top of the shit cake was the speeder chase at the end, wasn't it? Yeah, it was awful.
I kept laughing because we've got a great Force Awakens joke. I don't think we'd have recognized them with the red arm. So when we first saw them at the start, I was like, is that a Vespa bike in Star Wars? Oh, we're not going to see that again. And then he gave them all jobs. The problem I have is that Cyberpunk doesn't even match up with mods. And this is my core, not that I actually want to see mods in Star Wars, please don't get that, but okay, cool, weird Cyberpunk people, great. Why would you have mod bikes for? You got no jobs, how can you afford to run these things? So this is where I'm really, well, not torn. This is one of my most least liked things I've ever seen Star Wars today. I said in episode 1 I hated the Twi'lek guy. He's like the mayor's assistant.
Yeah,
and
I'm with you on that as well. Yeah.
When we got to see him again, and his weird assistant that's like a human that looks like he's part of an SNL sketch. Oh, the door's locked. Okay, fine. You don't want to barge in twice in a row. And then when the bike chase started, I remember giving Solo a lot of stick for its opening act, and it is the first 10 minutes. But my word, that made that speeder bike chase look like the bloody pod race. I'm trying not even to have that, but it was so slow. I don't need I don't need Endor. I don't need someone to go on a steady cam and walk 200 miles and speed up the footage or any of that stuff. I don't need that. That's fine. But when everything's in normal motion and it felt like the worst parts of Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars being put into live action. You have Bombad Jedi. Imagine if they stuck that in an episode, in live action. And you'd be like, how has this happened? And I just dislike this so much. And I think you're right. Being the Vespa bike is one thing, but having the 4 different colors and one of them matched the driver's hair, which really annoyed me as well because it looked like Loki from Avengers Tower in the first Avengers film. But I just didn't see the point of they didn't do anything you had this big chase just for the info that he's working with the Pikes. He could have told you that anyway. And as you said, I don't even like nitpicking Star Wars stuff, but when Boba Fett lands, yeah, it's cool, but it also shows that he could have ended this 5 minutes ago.
The Boba Fett that I know would have fired that jetpack up, flew there, slammed on the front of the speeder, or even landed next to him on the seat, or got his gun at him, or shot the speeder, anything.
If it had been a good chase, okay, let's say the chase is slow, right? I'll take that. That's fine. I'll take that hit. What is the action of the set piece? It is everything we've seen in every form of TV format in history. You've got the one on the bike that goes for a painting and then knocks off after a corner. Seen that before. Oh, well, water spillage. They're going to get around it. Seen that before. And this is where I was really lost on this.
The fruit truck as well. How many times have we seen a goddamn fruit truck? And they kind of do the Back to the Future thing, don't they? With Biff crashing into it with the manure.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. It is,
and even that did it in each film. So Back to the Future,
and I didn't like it by the end of that. Yeah, and This is what I'm like with this. I feel that because the chasers didn't feel original, and they were crashing into like the scaffolding, and like at least 10 like where's I mean, okay, not that you can have scaffolding Tatooine, but like they look like sandcastles, the houses. What's the scaffolding for? Why is there scaffolding in Star Wars? Like, it's really minor things, but just watching this, it was just so boring as a viewer. And I'm sat saying, if this isn't interesting for me, who's a Star Wars fan, who, like everyone in these comments, like you as well, you've been a bit more, not tame, but the last sort of 2-3 weeks, there are things we're probably more patient with because we know the universe, we know how it's run, we know what other things. The casual viewer, I think, would completely lose it. Even my dad, like, okay, he's a Star Wars fan, and like he's always watched these. He loves all that MOS, Quadrophenia, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he was like, Vespa bikes in Star Wars.
Yeah,
And I'm just
immediately takes you out of it.
It's and I think right, like not to like judge the actor, but why has he got a really normal London accent? Like,
yeah,
I know that you can joke about accents, it's always British villains and Imperial. That works. There's like when we had like the random Australian dude in Solo as well, who gave him the name. It stood out like a sore thumb because it's too real an accent, and getting a Cockney London accent, talking about like a fake eye, all that kind of stuff in Cyberpunk, in Star Wars, on a quad bike. I think I think me and you spoke a bit before. This is, I don't like going like this, but this is without a doubt one of the worst things I've ever seen in Star Wars. And I'm just going to put live action because I don't give a, you know me, I don't really care about the comics or the books, but from what I've seen across live action for however many years, this is definitely one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. It was amazing as well because I was kind of messaging you as I was watching it in real time.
I thought you finished it. I almost spoiled the whole episode for you, and I was so glad I didn't, because you messaged me about the bikes. Yeah, you messaged, and I sent you the Monsters Uni gif of the slug that's trying to run to school, and then you're like, I haven't got to the chase. I was like, okay, I'm not going to say anything then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my words to you were like, I have just witnessed one of the lowest points in Star Wars history, or one of the worst things I've seen in Star Wars, and you were like, Vespa bikes? I was like, yeah, you knew exactly where I was going with it, so I'm glad I wasn't the only one tonight. And it's given me some comfort as well, reading everyone's commentating on the Vespas as well. Yeah.
There are people, it's only Twitter, but there are people I know that are massive Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
That, I think I've even seen Molly from like Star Wars Explained say some really, really, really good stuff in this, and there's some really things that are just too much. And
it's just perplexing because it's like with 2 seasons of Mando and 2 episodes in so far, they've, for the most part, nailed the aesthetic of things. You know what belongs in Star Wars and what kind of, and you mentioned there with like the cartoons, there is like a little bit of, you have to forgive some of those things in the cartoons. I do find them very inconsistent because, as I mentioned with like Clone Wars, I haven't watched all of Rebels, but I assume it's the same. There are moments of really good drama and really good out of the box ideas and character stuff, and then they'll throw in like a really wacky episode. And I don't know how much of that is a quota from Disney. Like, you've got to add some like slapsticky ones for the really, really younger kids. You've got to appeal to all these different kind of people. I don't know how much of that goes into it, or if that is all from like the mind of Filoni and these are the stories that he wants to tell. But with stuff like that in the cartoons, I can kind of forgive some things to a point. I don't like the helicopter lightsabers. We were talking about that before we went live from Rebels. But, because it is a cartoon, characters can do more larger than life things.
And they all died.
I was going to say they're more animated. They are animated, for God's sake. But, the moves and everything. Like Ahsoka, for example, in the cartoon can do all these crazy things. When you've got Rosario Dawson, you need to strip it back a little bit. I know a lot of people were complaining about the action in Mando 2 with her because it wasn't like the car. And it's like, well, it can't be because they're two separate things. But fundamentally, with the live action stuff, even to a point, some of the sequel trilogy stuff, I mean, there are some aliens in there which do look terrible, but the aesthetic looks great across them all. It like all looks the part. But yeah, it's just, I know I'm harping on this and it's such a minuscule thing, but it does irritate me. It's just, why is this in there? So that did kind of ruin the episode for me, in all honesty. That was the thing, unfortunately, that sticks out in my mind the most out of the whole thing. And as we've discussed, there is some great things. There's some interesting things. The stuff that I hope we get a payoff to, certainly, I mentioned, if I'm going into like final thoughts now, like the Hutt stuff really interests me, and seeing like all these different warring factions. And if the Hutts are completely out of it now, they're done. They showed up, they apologized, we're leaving. that's going to really kill me, because I think there's so much story potential there, and it just seems out of character for them. Never, you can't trust the Hutts. The Hooks at gangsters. They're gonna want to go for the palace, surely. So I hope that comes back into it. The flashback stuff, I'm still interested to see where that goes, catching us up to sort of the present day stuff with Mando. But this is my least favorite episode for many reasons. The side characters, the things that just really stick out to you and take you out of Star Wars. And if something takes you out of Star Wars, it ain't doing a good job. And that's why I asked you who directed this episode, because it didn't feel like Rodriguez. We've seen Rodriguez direct some great Boba Fett action, as I mentioned, in Mando season 2. So to go from that, where he's proven himself, to go to the action in this, you can't even call it action, really, can you, with how laughably bad it is? Yeah, it's kind of gutting towards the end of it. But
you mentioned Shark Boy.
Go on. Oh yes, yeah.
Before we went live, you mentioned Tom Rogers, and then you said it's Spy Kids, Shark Boy, Nav Girl, and I can't shake the image now of Shark Boy and Nav Girl like existing within Star Wars because of this, and
wouldn't surprise
me.
I'm
going to get them, but it's such a weird. Yeah, I think it's something that we just don't know how we got to the stage of getting put into the actual final piece. Like, did David sit back and think, was this too much? And I don't know. Lucas went to that. He made F1 in Star Wars, but it was a pod race, and they didn't like Formula 1 cars. Mm-hmm. And there are ways to do speed about chases. Create a new, Rey in the Force Awakens. Oh, here's a new speeder. It looks like a Magnum lollipop, but that was a really cool design, something new, something different. And it's like, and now we're going to Vespa bikes, and I can't shake it. It's a real low point. I think low point's probably the best term, and also just the people riding them just had no charisma either. Like, let's be honest, they're all probably going to die except the girl. And there's like a guy in the background that looked like, if anyone knows who Francis Bourgeois is, the train spotter that's got really famous recently. There's a guy who's a spitting image of him in the background of it, and yeah, it's a low point, and I'm hoping. Yeah. That it picks. It's not hard to pick up where this left off. Now, what I will say though, at least if we got one moment, in that unobvious Vespa bike, they see all the pikes coming out of the Star Cruiser. I'm going to shout out Dave actually, because he messaged me straight away saying that cruiser looks exactly like the one that Disney are building for their Star Wars hotel, whatever it's called, and yeah. That was a cool reference to being able to pay $4,000 to go on a 3-day cruise that doesn't leave any water because it's built on land and all that kind of stuff. But what I will say, it ended with the Pikes, and at least we know now the Pikes are in town. Some stuff's gone down in previously Boba Fett. Some stuff's happened in the flashback. I think story-wise point, episode 4 has got to be a big one now. They've set some stuff at episode 3. In episode 4, I trust them. Give us a 45-minute, 50-minute episode, and we'll be right back on track. And if they get the balance right, it'll be a smooth sailing through to episode 7.
I mean, nothing's gonna unsee the things that we've seen in today's episode. But yeah, I think episode
they'll probably come back. Those bikes are coming back. Unfortunately,
yeah, I know they are.
Hopefully, we don't see them in a set piece. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
I can not put it, but if they just exist in a scene, that's fine. But if they're being involved in a sequence and they're getting blown up, I really don't care.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like the lightsaber. You mentioned that Darth Maul just gets rid of those helicopter lightsabers in Rebels. Hopefully something happens with this where they're all just blown up or clamped or, taken away or whatever. But yeah, I think episode 4 is going to be make or break. And yeah, things have got to start ramping up soon, because we are going to be at the halfway point. We need to know what's going on. Something big needs to happen. And hopefully it will. I'm sure it will. We live in hope. We don't want to go into hating it. Let's keep an open mind for next week. I guess that will do it for our discussion. So thank you to everyone, as always, for jumping on, commenting. The comments have been great tonight. So we hope we see you all next week for it as well. We're not going anywhere for at least another month with Star Wars content. We've got another 4 weeks to go. A lot of episodes, lots to talk about, and hopefully a lot of stuff happens for us to talk about. We'll find out. Be sure to comment. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, your thoughts on Book of Boba Fett. A lot of people have already shared their thoughts now, but if you are discovering this after we've gone live, please do let us know your thoughts on it. Did you hate it? Did you like it? What do you think of the Vespa bikes? Everything about Boba Fett, Star Wars in general, speculations of where you think it's going. We love talking about all this stuff, and we'll reply to all of your comments as well. George, what else have we got coming out? I believe, sort of keep everyone in the loop, we might be having a certain update video coming out soon, right?
Yes, so there's going to be an update video next week. And as always, if you want to find out more about that, we'll actually speak about really briefly now, just a couple of seconds. But when we've got details, we will put them on social media. So as always, hit us on social media, hit us there. We're not going to say right now what we're doing, but I guess we can say like we're talking about some of our plans for the year, 1 or 2 series we're going to be doing, things we've hinted at, things people know about. So it's more of like a casual check-in. There's no emergency. There's nothing changing, nothing major, but it is a very curious update video. You know, we do these Star Wars videos weekly, and we're going to carry on doing that. And it's something that we have to address. Marvel stuff, discussions at the end of each series. So do tune in because there's some really cool stuff we're looking forward to showing off. And if you've seen our social media feeds last few days, there's been some updated thumbnails for certain series we've been doing. So maybe there's a teaser as to maybe that's going to be a recurring theme, or maybe there'll be new franchises to cover as well. So do hit us up on there. We've got new reviews coming as well. Licorice Pizza at some point in the next week. Oh god, I swear
Belfast as well, I think, next
Belfast,
week, right?
yeah. We've got a review. Me and you'll be doing the Belfast review. There's a red carpet interview from London Film Festival that we're going to upload in sync with the cinema release over here as well. And yeah, so as always, social media is the best way to find out about all that stuff. I want to say the films are back, but we also get January is always a pretty dead month every year. You know, we're slowly heading into Oscar season. We've had the BAFTA long list today, so the nominations will be in February. So as always, guys, there will be more stuff on the way. But January is that quiet month, and I'm going to hand over to Chris to talk about a review that's coming tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I did almost miss this because this has been pre-recorded as of this live stream. That's probably why I didn't talk about it. Yeah, so, I mean, we're not totally finished with the Peter Jackson retrospective. There is a certain Hobbit trilogy to talk about. We're going to save that until December to time with the 10th year anniversary for that. So for all intents and purposes, this is going to be the final one for the best part of a year almost. We're talking about The Lovely Bones. That's me and Tate on that one. It was a film that he hadn't seen until, you know, right before we did that review. So it was almost like, you know, getting his initial opinion on there. It's good to finally cover, well, pretty much all the Peter Jackson films now at this point, certainly the ones that I hadn't seen before. It was a really good discussion, quite a contemporary discussion, certain elements in there as well, which we do address. But yeah, really good review. So if you like your Peter Jackson stuff, or you just want to hear our thoughts on The Lovely Bones, check that out tomorrow. That'll be going up at the usual time. Or I say usual time. We go at 10 p.m. tonight, but at 8 p.m. that'll be going up tomorrow if you're interested. So yeah, check it out.
Definitely, people. And like I said, more stuff. There will be announcements. It'll be on social media. There's a lot going on. And I said, you know, Oscar season's coming. We think we're in a good spot for Oscars this.
Oh,
there might be other films. There's big films coming out before then as well. So there's a lot of things happening. We're planning ahead, and I think it's safe to say we're pretty excited about what we can show.
Oh yeah.
And I'm very curious to see what people's reactions to them may be. So I want to thank everybody again for commenting and joining on with this. And I'm just going to plug in once more. Get on the social medias. It's the best thing. We're almost at 500 followers on Twitter. We're pushing towards 2.5k subs on YouTube as well. So do hit that share button. It does help, and do follow us because it's the best way to communicate with us. Always on hand for stuff like that. So yeah, I guess that's the nicest way we can outro it. So that'll do it. See you on the next one.
See ya. Bye. Bye.